This box arrived in the mail yesterday. It is supposed to contain the New King James Version large print wide margin reference Bible with a comfort print font, and this copy is supposed to be a soft leather look brown. I've been doing business with christianbook.com since the late 1980s. In fact, this older Nelson wide margin I purchased from them in 1989. So let's open it up and see if we got what we expected and take a quick look at it. At some point later, we'll do a full review of it. It arrived here fairly quickly. I ordered it on a Monday, and it was shipped on a Tuesday. It arrived on Friday. So here's the box, the back of the box. Put the packing material away. Feels like a clamshell. Okay, so it has book introductions, verse by verse style, which is good. 72,000 cross references. We'll see where those are placed. Color maps, Smythe sewn, Words of Christ in red. That's unfortunate. But we'll see how darkly they're printed. The red letters were not printed very badly on this volume that came out last year, so we'll see how those compare. And it's supposed to be in a 10.5 point font. That seems a bit large to me, but we'll see how that works out. Here's the ISBN. Hopefully that's in focus. And the price there is somewhat higher than I actually paid. I paid $39 for this. So, enough of the box. Clamshell, let's open it up and take a look. Little catalog sales sheet. And here is the book. Very flexible with this leather look. So, you have stitching along the perimeter. Holy Bible on the front. Fairly clean spine, no raised hubs, but some decorative gilding here. NKJV and the little Nelson house. Let's look at the back. I believe it has 2 brown ribbon markers, brown head and tail bands. Gold looks nice and clean. Little difference in surface here and here, rougher right through there and shinier right there. Okay, so paper liner, presentation page. If that is a sample of the red, then the red's probably not too bad. Let's look at the page layout. Oh, interesting. This actually kind of reminds me of the Open Bible. Been a while since I've had one, so I don't remember that well. Very wide. I gotta say that I'm a little disappointed in this layout. The wide margin is wide only on the outside. The red is a decent red, and I suppose I can read that without pain, but I do not like the very wide text columns. And yeah, unfortunately, the references are placed at the bottom of the page. So for me, this is not going to be a winner. This is probably not a book that I will use often. I noticed some folding marks up here on the corner of the paper. Okay, at the back, after the book of Revelation, we have a concordance. If you're scratching noises, that's my cat. She wants in. And when you're reading plan, and then the maps. Maps are on a semi-gloss paper. Here's a note about the type. So you can pause and read that. It's a 2K Denmark comfort print type. So here are our semi-glossy maps. The binding is Smythe sewn, as I mentioned. The print is supposed to be line matched, which is good. 10.5 point font we mentioned. And so I'm going to pause the video and then I'm going to show you the old 1989 format, and we'll compare them just briefly. So now I have the new Bible, the one that was just arrived, on the stand, and I want to show you the layout of the classic reference that Nelson printed in the Comfort Print font last year. And I think if they had gone with this layout and simply added wide margins, I would have been much more pleased with it, because it has the center column references, relatively narrow text columns, which I like. But they decided on this, and only the outer margin is wide, and then the text is in a very broad, it is in verse-by-verse format, but it's a very wide text column with references at the bottom of the page. Let me show you also the layout of the 1980s Nelson Wide Margin Bible. And so this I actually prefer, although the font is a bit small. It's more like 9 points here, and then poetic sections are in even a smaller font at about 8.5 points. But you have a wide margin on the inside of the text column and the outside, relatively narrow text columns, and references in the center. This I greatly prefer to this. You may notice also the sheen on the paper. The paper here is shiny. The paper here is very flat, very diffuse. And I've noticed that with modern paper, it tends to be shiny these days, which can be quite annoying if you're trying to read and you have to adjust your paper angle or move your lamp to be able to read it. Here is a little Bible stack to show you the new wide margin, the Comfort Print wide margin that just arrived. It's a bit wider than the 1980s version Nelson wide margin, and quite a lot wider than the classic reference that was printed last year. Next, I want to show you the Nelson Comfort Print wide margin NKJV and compare it to the Cambridge NKJV wide margin, which I'll bring in now. The Cambridge edition has nice flat paper too. You don't see much sheen on it. It has, I think, a superior layout. My chief problem with the Cambridge wide margin is this small font. Capitals are about 7.5 points when you compare to Times New Roman. Lowercase letters are more like 8.5, but it strikes me as very small. And yet, I think it's a better layout with better paper than the new, more readable Comfort Print Nelson wide margin. Now I'll just turn some pages to give you a sense of what this is like. It seems very flexible right out of the box. I'm not pressing the pages down. I don't want to cause injury to the spine since it hasn't been broken in yet. Page contents are in the outer top. Page numbers at the top center. You have these large red headings in the text. The very wide paper here, very wide page, is going to make it hard to move easily from one location to another. Happily, the book titles and page contents are in the outside margin. The paper is not as soft and floppy as in some books, so that is not that great of a difficulty. A lot of red through here. Let's take a look at the show through. You can see that there between the verses. And probably not too bad. Okay, here's a sample of a book introduction. Try to get the glare off the page. So you have author, time, key verse, and then theme. So the book introductions are relatively short. They're in a sans serif font, a couple of points smaller than the text. Those are good choices, I think. Well, this was a brief unboxing video. We'll come back with a more thorough review later. I hope you found this informative. I'm sorry I couldn't be more enthusiastic, but it's not a layout that I like, and I'm fairly sure I will not be using this Bible except in videos to compare it with other models, other editions. Well, thanks very much for your time, and with that we'll conclude this review.